coffee? Are you a coffee drinker?
I used to be, but I've cut all carbs because I'm trying to lose 60 pounds over the next 3 months or so.
Ah, well, I see. Well, coffee doesn't have to have carbs, you know.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does because without carbs, it tastes terrible.
You know, it's funny. I have become well versed in espresso, and I bought myself a very nice espresso machine a couple of years ago because I can't stand coffee. So with the espresso, you have the possibility of getting it to be palatable. It's quick, it's easy. I get all the caffeine, and you can just shoot it, and you're done. So,
I
some,
usually I have a coffee maker. I make 5 cups at a time and then put it into a giant mug.
oh
Usually,
my,
usually add like 1 cup of whole milk and then like an ounce and a half of sugar, and that's about the perfect mix for me.
yeah, that it's the sugar. That's where the carbs are. Well, that and the dairy. But anyway, they want to get off on that too much. But you have a YouTube channel. I'm guessing it's named after you. It's T-Jump.
Yes.
And you were kind enough to have me on a couple days ago, and you know I went and looked at the comments for that video, which is always dangerous to do, and everyone was so nice. You must have the nicest audience ever.
uh, well, if you're an atheist, yes. If you're a theist, not so much. Apparently, if you're on the side of the people who are commenting, then they're really nice to you. But if you're on an opposing side,
Yeah,
not quite as much.
well, isn't that the way of the world, I guess. How did you start this YouTube channel? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I was researching philosophy, and as a part of my researching philosophy, I would invite out professors to go to coffee, local professors at different colleges, and just to talk about different concepts in philosophy to test my knowledge. And I'd record it on my phone because it was convenient and upload it to my YouTube channel because I didn't want to take
Yeah.
up the space on my hard drive. And people started to watch and send me money and send me a lot of money. And so I started to do it full time.
So this channel is your gig, and I was pretty sure that that was going to be the case because you were putting out a video a day, every day or two, one a day. It looks like here.
Yes, and I actually hate doing that. So I actually have a guy who's volunteering to set up all my conversations for me, which is extremely useful, but he sets up a lot of them. And so he's been setting them up like every day. And I'm like, ah, so much work.
It, it's so funny. I could almost use a service like that. The problem, of course, is I don't want to talk to the vast majority of people that you are talking to. If I could be so bold.
Me
Uh,
neither, by the way.
it, and it's delightful because you are, I don't know, frustratingly calm when talking to some of these people. Um, and I guess I was the benefactor of that because when I was on the show, I probably did 90% of the talking, but that might be a problem with me, not necessarily you. But yeah, you've had on some people. What are your most interesting ones recently?
Well, it depends on how you define interesting.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think the most intellectually interesting ones are the professors I have on. Those are the ones where I get actual progress in the philosophical arguments, and they're pretty intellectually rigorous. I had on Rob Coons. He's a very, very intelligent theist professor, Thomist, extremely well educated. Robin Collins, one of the leading experts in the fine tuning argument. That one, extremely interesting conversation where I got him to admit that there was a problem with the fine tuning argument. But then there's like interesting as in dumpster fire interesting. And those are like the Darth Dawkins, the Godless Girl, the Lights and Colors Prove Jesus, the Flat Earthers. Those are some interesting ones. So if any of those sound interesting, check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/tjump. Send me money.
Yeah, of course, yeah, listeners, even if you don't think that's interesting, go check out those videos because there's other content. You had a candidate for the U.S. House. Um, let's see, talking about geocentrist universe, philosophy kindergarten. What is that?
Oh, that's my Sunday show. So I get invited to join a Discord where
Oh,
there's
okay.
like 6 speakers,
Five
and we
five
have a
hours.
bunch of just random people on Discord who don't know anything about philosophy, and we argue with them.
Oh, that is fantastic. I'm going to enjoy that. I'll have to check that out later. So Tom, now that we know a little bit about the channel, tell us about you. You were indicating what you did for work, but where did you grow up generally? I don't need a street address or anything. Were you raised religious? Were you secular? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was born in Dallas, Texas. It's hot there,
Yeah,
and
I've heard.
moved to Minnesota when I was about
Oh my God.
somewhere between 4 and 8 years old, so pretty young. And yeah, my parents are very religious. So I went to a Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, mass multiple times a week, very painful.
Yeah.
Um, and I started to lose my faith sometime around high school. So I was definitely very religious, and I had major depression for pretty much my entire life. And I had to pray to this God for help. And I prayed morning and night and didn't get any help. So after years and years of praying, I eventually just lost the ability to believe in it. Kind of like praying to a milk carton. You pray to a milk carton for help and it doesn't do anything. Eventually you start
Yeah.
to realize it's just a milk carton. So sometime around high school is when the end of high school is when I just stopped believing in God. I didn't identify as an atheist at this point yet because I didn't know what that term was. And about that time, a few years later, is when I started to research into philosophy and started to learn about philosophical positions like atheism, and heard about the Four Horsemen, Hitchens, Aristotle's, Dennett. And that's when I really started to adopt the atheist label a few years after high school.
Very, very nice. And if you don't mind me asking, you're doing this full time, right? That's what you said. What were you doing before?
My last job, I was a video game tester for Activision.
A video game tester. That sounds kind of nice.
Yes, most people normally say that. People who haven't been one. That is typically. So, have you played video games? Are you familiar with the basic structure of a video game?
I have played video games. Yes.
So imagine taking every character and having to bump up against every side of every wall, every inch of every wall on every map, and all day long for like 8 hours a day. And when you get this wonderful little like 30-minute break when you like clip through the wall and you find a bug, you then get to write like a 3-page report on how you found that bug and get to send it in. And then when they fix it, they send it back like a revised version of the game, and you have to start all over. And you get this little checkbox, like a little grid of all the characters' names and all of the maps' names, and you have to go through every single wall and every single one of those all day long. It's not the best.
And I guess that wouldn't be intellectually stimulating.
Yes, about as intellectually stimulating as talking to Godless Girl.
I'm not familiar with this person, and based on what you've said already, I'm not going to watch the video. I've skimmed through or listened to samples from about 10 different ones just this morning. Interesting people. It's I mean, of course, part of the show is finding people that are provocative and therefore entertaining. But what some of these people at least claim to believe is pretty astounding. Let's see. I have a soft spot for the insanity that is flat Earth. Walk me through that. How'd that happen?
Yeah, so flat Earth is actually insanely popular in the YouTube community. There's multiple secular atheists who have like massive YouTube channels just dedicated to debunking flat earthers because it's so hugely entertaining to listen to them talk about how gravity is fake and the moon landing is fake, and it's all just relative density. So it's just, I don't know how they think that works, but relative density pushes things down apparently, and not any other direction. So yeah, getting into the flat earth debates was really entertaining because I met with Fight the Flat Earth. He's a big one that has a channel dedicated to that. Reg Rhetoric, another one, friends of mine who debunk flat earthers, and they have the most interesting way of looking at the world. Everything is a conspiracy by the government, and if you agree, you are paid by the government. And so apparently I am a government shill who's paid by the government millions of dollars under the table.
Fair enough. You know, you got to work somewhere.
Yeah. I wish I knew about this earlier. My bank account would be significantly bigger.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. It is amazing. I was kind of hoping maybe I'm looking at the people that you've interviewed, and maybe the average age is high enough, but some of them look pretty young. It was one of those things that, like with my kids, they grew up in an era of, spam and viruses. I'm talking about computer viruses and phishing emails. And I was kind of hoping that as a society, as a culture, when we get used to the fact that knowing everything is a scam, that you would become more alert to scams. And religion, I think, trains people to not have skills to be able to evaluate information, because otherwise you wouldn't be in the church. But I don't know. I just think even though there's all these emails and constant spam and everyone's trying to get your information, people are still gullible and believe things. What do you think that about on that idea?
I think it's partially true. I don't think religion is what trained people to do this. I think it's innate in human nature, and we have to like train it out of ourselves. And if we don't, we're just innately um, geared towards thinking that there are these intelligences everywhere. So like it's the anthropocentric fallacy of hyperactive agency detection system. So like you hear a rustle in the bushes, if you think it's a lion, you run away and survive. And if you think I'm going to be a good scientific investigator and wait for more evidence, and because it could just be the wind, that group of people did not survive as often. And so human beings evolved this trait to think there's always some kind of a demon or a lion or some intelligence behind everything. And so we just have this innate built thing in us. In the case of the phishing and the Nairobi princes who have millions of dollars, most
Right.
of the people who fall for that are actually the elderly who haven't grown up with the internet. So most of the younger generation don't fall for that as much. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, the scams that you mentioned, yes, you're right. And before my mom passed away, we had to switch her over to a VoIP, voice over internet protocol phone, because having a landline pretty much tells scammers that you have a landline, you're an older person, because no one under 50, well, maybe some, but not many, have a landline. So inherently, they filter out young people to make these calls. But some of the things that younger Americans, I guess, have issues with are things like Ayn Rand. There's one that gets to me. A lot of people read Ayn Rand and they lock onto that and say that this is going to save the earth. And I get emails and phone calls where people go, "So, Phil, what do you think about fiat currency?" And I know that that's going to be a problem. And we talked about it a little on your show. And I don't know how much you were baiting me just to keep the conversation going. But I hear people saying things that, like gambling on cryptocurrency or gambling at a casino is kind of like buying stocks. What do you think? Were you egging me on?
Partially. So there's definitely clearly a difference in a stable economy. Investing in a stable economy is more likely to make you money than like investing in a highly volatile thing. And so there's definitely a statistical difference between the two. But because there are a lot of like penny stocks and things, penny
Yeah.
stocks are pretty much the same, I'd say, as gambling. I don't think most of them succeed. So I think there are definitely avenues within stocks that are pretty much exactly synonymous with gambling. And it's only if you know which stocks are the safe ones, like you mentioned, the index funds, those are the only ones that are like really viable options to really not qualify as gambling. If you're just investing in a random company you found on some kind of website, yeah, it's probably gambling. It's probably the same thing as gambling.
Yeah, I will agree with you that there are many companies that are essentially gambling, because the investor has no knowledge about the company, what it does, how it makes money, how much money it makes. They've not gone through any of the financial records or documents. And even before we had Reddit, which is a place for a lot of this to happen, 20, 30 plus years ago, it was always a friend of mine said this was a good stock to buy, so I put $5,000 in it. And of course, I would want to ask, what does this friend know? Nothing. They just thought it was a good idea for me to put $5,000 in it. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've had a few family members who invested a lot, especially into oil right before the big crash, and lost six figures into that. So the reason I think a lot of stocks is fair to compare with gambling is because the amount of effort and knowledge it takes to be acquainted into field enough to not have it be gambling is a lot more than what most people are going to spend the time doing. And so kind of like buying a lottery ticket and not knowing your odds of losing or whatever, or going to a casino and not knowing your odds of losing, the vast majority of average everyday people buying stocks probably just aren't qualified enough to know what they're supposed to be doing, which is why rich people can make a lot of money off of the poor people, because they're not really educated in knowing what they're doing.
Well, I will definitely agree that not knowing what you're doing and just jumping in and buying things is bad. I remember back in the late 90s, I had a friend who was using CDs were his investment portfolio. You know, he's making a couple percent per year. And it was in the late 90s, and he got tired of watching all of his friends make huge returns on things like pets.com and all this, the new era and the new world and the technology bubble. And so he took all of his money out one day, found a broker, and bought 8 different high-tech stocks, and then lost half of his money in the next 12 months. He obviously didn't know what he was doing. And in that case, yeah, I could see how it would feel a lot like that. You do have a lot of religious people on, talk about religion. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure you're an atheist.
I'm a Pastafarian. I believe in the spaghetti monster. All praise the spaghetti monster. His noodly appendage.
Fair enough. Are you meat or meatless?
Oh, definitely meat. Like it has to be at least 50% meat or it doesn't count.
Because the meatless Pastafarians are fucking heretics, as far as I'm concerned. It's just unbelievable how people could believe crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, like vegans. Like, it's crazy vegans.
Yeah. Although the one group I have, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, is when I criticize Bitcoin, that I get the most pushback of any topic I could ever cover is Bitcoin / cryptocurrency, which I'm looking through the last few weeks here, maybe even a few months. I don't know if you've had anyone come on to promote Bitcoin. How has that happened?
I've had a few on for NFTs. I got like paid sponsorships for NFTs and some for, I think, Bitcoin or whatever. I don't like typically go into finances, but you should do one on Elon Musk, because I think if you criticize Elon Musk, you'll get more hate than Bitcoin.
I agree. I agree. I get probably the 1 and 2 topics are cryptocurrency, and then number 2 is Elon. I have talked in unflattering ways about Elon. So, yeah, I hear you. I think that's the number 2 issue of complaints. And maybe it's because a lot of my listeners, if they are offended about me and my listeners' discussions about religion, they just leave. But who knows? What are you going to do? What do you got coming up soon? Anything really tantalizing we should tune in for?
Yeah, I have a bunch of politicians coming on. I've been trying to work on a second channel where the goal is to have actual politicians debate each other. Today, in 2 hours, I have Mark White, independent candidate for Senate for North something or another, one of the North states. Then I have another one in a few more days. Forget who, though. I have 6 or 7 different U.S. politicians coming on in the next few weeks. Those are going to be interesting.
Yeah. Are there planned topics for them, or are they just coming on and gonna see who survives on their own?
Mostly it's just one-on-one, promote their platform, talk about different policies, and then if they agree to it, we can set up a debate with the other local politicians. We haven't been able to get like 2 politicians from the same district to debate each other yet. Like I had Shahid Buttar on, and he's pretty large overall. He's going up against Nancy Pelosi. Getting a debate between those 2 would be very interesting.
Now, you don't have Nancy Pelosi on, though. I mean, he's someone running against her.
Yeah, I'd like to have Nancy Pelosi on. That would be very fun.
That would be very fun and very interesting. What other subjects really should a listener look for, or a viewer look for through your videos that you think would be very interesting?
Yeah, my primary topic is the existence of God. So I invite on theists, mostly experts in the field, to discuss the philosophical arguments for and against the existence of God. Usually have them taking the "this is evidence of God" position, and I take the "it's definitely not" position. And so I like to invite on the world's leading experts in the particular arguments, the people who William Lane Craig cites as his sources of evidence, like Josh Rasmussen, Rob Coons, Robin Collins. They're the people who William Lane Craig uses as a basis of giving evidence. And so I invite them on to try and show that those arguments aren't very good.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, you mentioned high school, you kind of fell out with the idea of a deity. It only to the level of what you are comfortable sharing. How are things with family? Did you lose friends? Did you lose family? How'd that all work out for you?
I was never close to anybody for most of my life. So I was, because of my depression and other neurodivergencies, I was diagnosed with high function autism. So I never got along with other people. So I didn't have any friends or any close family then until I was in like my late 20s, early 30s. So I didn't really have anything to lose at that point.
Yeah, fair enough. And now, do you have a community? Do you go to any kind of local group? What works for you?
Yeah, I go to lots of groups. I go to meetup groups and secular organizations, campus atheists, skeptics, and humanists at the University of Minnesota. Mostly it's just me forcing myself to be social. They're not really things that I feel like a part of. Because again, I'm still, because of my autism, it's harder for me to find emotional connection with people. It's always been that way. So I've had to learn how to fake it, mostly fake being interested in emotional connection to try and build communities. But I haven't really found a place that I really feel like I belong.
Yeah, and church is not that place, I take it.
Well, actually, church has most of the things I'd really like, but with extra dogma I would not like. So churches are actually really, really good, in my opinion, in contrary to your opinion. I think that churches provide a very interesting opportunity for people who have a diverse skill set to come together and to work together on things that anyone in the group may be very bad at. So like someone who's very socially introverted can go into a church and find friends in youth groups who are very socially extroverted and can introduce them to people and can build connections and find relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships, and get introduced to people that they never would have met otherwise. And so churches offer a lot of social connection and community and help with the skill sets that you don't have by providing a community of a diverse group. And that's something I would very much like to have. So I'd like to have that aspect of church, but in a more secular area.
Yeah. Now, have you ever gone to a UU church?
Yes. The Humanitarians and the Unitarians churches. There's several of them in the area. I've also been to the Humanists and Minnesota atheist groups.
Very nice. One of the other things that we did talk about briefly on your show, and I've heard it in a couple other segments, the idea of, I don't know, an atheist church, a non-God church that would have the good stuff and not necessarily the bad stuff. And one of your focuses, and correct me if I'm wrong, was to somehow use tax loopholes of a religion to try to provide people a reasonably affordable place to live. Does that sound right? Walk me through that.
Yeah. So essentially, churches are offered a lot of different tax incentives and legal benefits that other organizations aren't. And these benefits can be used to help millions of people. Like one of the ways is like a local nonprofit called the Noaa Impact Fund, the Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing Fund, buys up apartment buildings and then sells rent, but at a significantly lower affordable rate. And if we had a church organization who was tax exempt, obviously, to buy up these kinds of apartment buildings and then get $500,000 off because they don't have to pay for like taxes, state and local and federal taxes, then we can give that back by giving the tenants lower rent. And so if we imagine all churches in America did this, that would be a hugely moral beneficial thing for millions of people. But obviously Christian churches don't do this. They're more interested in money and church buildings. But if we could start an atheist church that is actually devoted to really helping people in the way that churches have the opportunity to, but don't, we can show what a religion can be, show what a church can be, what it should be. And I'd really like to adopt that very strange criticism where Christians say, well, atheism is religion too. I'd kind of like to take the route where we say, yes, it is. And it's better than yours because we do more moral things. We help more people. We do more things for more people. And we don't ask them to believe or burn in hell.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Tom, how can people reach you? And maybe you're not the most social person, but if a conference wanted to have you as a speaker, would you be up for that?
Definitely, I do that a lot. Actually, I have one coming up in November, so that is definitely a part of my occupation where I do it, and I'm happy to do it. You can check on my YouTube channel. My work email is tejump@comcast.net, and it's plastered all over my YouTube page where to find that.
Yeah, it wasn't hard to find stuff. Everybody, once again, it's T, as in Tom, Jump, T-Jump, nice short YouTube channel name, and under every video, at least everyone that I looked at, there's a dozen ways to contact you, donate money, because you are now making, I think you said this, you're making a living doing this.
Yep.
And trying to provide information and education to people. So if someone else has a few bucks to spare, you can go do that. Is there anything about you, your channel, what you're doing that we haven't talked about that you would like to cover?
I think we've covered most of the things. Like the three big things I'm working on right now is a political debates channel, the atheist church channel, and just growing my channel in general. Those are the three things. Socially, if anyone has any contacts to, like, I don't know, models, that'd be great. You just introduce me to models. That'd be super helpful.
Because you want to interview them for the show?
No, I'd like to date them. That's mostly.
Oh, I see. Fair enough. Well, Tom, thank you very much for your time being on the show. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to come on, and it's always fun to talk with you. So happy to be on.
All right. I have stopped the recording. Any concerns, problems, anything I need to fix? Because generally I don't edit anything.
Nope, I'm good. Everything seems fine.
Very good. Well, like I said, I will work on this a little today, and then tomorrow it'll go out, and I'll try to remember to send you a link, but I have proven that I don't always do that. I've proven it to myself anyway. So if you get any questions, let me know. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thanks. Talk to you later.